Right, this front subframe. I've never 100% been happy with the way I mounted the steering rack to this middle brace that I put on the frame when I cut the centerpiece out. So for those of you that missed it, when I very first started this project, the engine doesn't fit in the car with the standard subframe. I had to cut the middle out and brace the front edge of it instead. So the front of the subframe gets braced, end gets cut out, but it still mounts the car on the back. The steering was brought forward instead of sitting up here where it used to sit. It was brought forward and down, and I made special steering adapters for the hubs to suit that. And when I mounted it on here, I basically just set the height correctly from this cross piece and just put some bolts through it and nuts on the bottom of it. Now I was never 100% happy with that because all the shear force was basically on the head of the bolt at the bottom, because it would go through the big chunk of aluminium on the steering rack and through the 6mm, I think it is, steel plate, and all the shear would be on that steel plate. So what I've done is I've made these little pyramids or additional braces. So now the bolt is in shear twice, basically. So it's got a nut welded to the top. It bolts through the bottom, which is the plate. It goes through the steering rack mounts, which are thick, about that size, and then it goes through another steel plate where it is nutted on. So now I can undo the bolts from underneath without having to try and get my hand in and get a spanner in awkward, because remember, the engine sits here. So I've done that. That was fairly easy. Just cut a bit out of most 6mm steel, I think it is, or yeah, 6mm steel. Cut them to fit, nuts on the top, job done. That now sits solid. I'm happy with that. That is quite comfortably mounted, and I don't think I'm going to have any problems with that. So now I can just take this and get it powder coated. Or I've never 100% been happy with this either. So this is basically what I've been calling the engine cradle. The engine sits in the middle here like that. We've got mounts that come out to these two bits here, and then the ends mount to the car, and again they mount horizontally this way and this way. So we go into the car, into the chassis rail that way, and into the chassis seam down the bottom this way with two little bolts. I've never 100% been happy with this for two reasons. One is I'd rather bolt up into the chassis rail, and two, this bit coming out here just gets in the way. If I want to upgrade the turbos, if I want to put anything in this place here, I can't because it's in the way. So what I want to do, there's more as well. These these spikes at the bottom are just asking to be ripped off. These were to hold the anti-roll bar, so this sat up in front here, and the cradle bolted to the steering rack as well when it was only mounted one side. The anti-roll bar mounted to the other side of it, and the engine top. So it all fits and it's all cradled nicely. I just don't like the outside, I don't like the engine mounts, and I don't like the way the anti-roll bar sits either. The only thing I did like about it was it had a nice little spot for my power steering to be bolted to. But that's not enough of a reason in my book to keep this. So this is likely to be scrapped. Now, if I'm scrapping this, then I need a way to mount my engine again. At least now I know where the engine is and I know where the engine goes. So I've tried to make it easy on myself. Instead of having two separate frames that go on the front of the car, I just want one individual frame. So I'm just going to use this subframe to build from to make the engine cradle as such. I'm also going to re-brace this subframe as well into the car, into two additional bolts that nuts or threads that I've put into the chassis rails as well. I'd done that before it went for paint. Those of you that remember, well done, and thanks for watching. Thanks for coming back. So, the plan with this. The plan is I've got these two anti-roll bar tubes that have been bent 90 degrees. I've had to buy these separately because I don't have an anti-roll bar bender or tube bender. It is thick 3mm steel, I think, so it should be plenty strong enough. And what I'm planning on doing, I've got two of them. The other one's around here somewhere. Where's the other one? What have I done with it? Oh, there it is. So I've got two of them, and what I was planning on doing was bringing these from these towers here, both sides, from there down into the front of the steering rack. These aren't the same length. Oh, look at that, scumbags. Make my life awkward, why don't you? Oh, they're almost the same length. Either way, yeah, so I'm going to put them coming down into the front here. That then gives me a spot right about here to mount the engine off. And then I'm also going to go from here to the chassis rail to support this as well. That also lets me build across the front to put the anti-roll bar closer and higher up, out of the way of all sorts of things on the floor. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to work it out. I'm going to see what I can do to get that mounted there where it should be. Get that mounted there to give me a place to build off for the engine mounts. This should be fun. Right, I cut these two legs to length. I think it was like 21 centimeters or something like that. I got plenty of clearance each side, and I put them at the same angle pointing in as well. So they're just tack welded on there at the moment. They should be equal, both sides, and I like symmetry, so that's a good start. Now I need to find out how much room I've got with the anti-roll bar. I don't actually think I've got that much room. So the next thing I've got to do is put this in the car, bolting dirty bits to my nice clean paint, and putting the engine back in and seeing how much space we've got to fit that anti-roll bar. And we can start looking at branching this off to the mount that I've got, and the mount that I've got in the car, and the engine mount as well, so we can triangulate it to make it skookum. Then we can just lop these off when we need to, and yeah, we're laughing then. We can take it off to powder coating, and this can go on the car permanently then, and I'll be much happier for the much more solid steering rack and much better mounted engine, I think. But I've been proven wrong before. Anyway, let's give it a go. Right, quick view under here. So here's my new piece that goes over the steering rack, same the other side, and I've just marked this up at a rough height to give me an idea where the anti-roll bar needs to sit. And look, I'm not too far away from my engine mount that I've already made, which I might remake, but I'm not too far away from that engine mount. And the mount in the car that is right by here, somewhere, right there, that is right here, so like just off screen, right here, so we can triangulate to there, and then we can mount to there, and then we can also have our cross piece across to the other side where we can mount our anti-roll bar to it, and then it's got enough room to move. And if we look through there, there's plenty of room to have it moving around and have it sitting in place and all that sort of stuff. So that's a start. Now I need to get it all back out again, cut this the right height, get a piece of something to go across to mount the anti-roll bar to, and then we can work on engine mounts. Right, hopefully you can see what I've got. Sorry, the camera died when I done this bit, but we've got my 90-degree bend here to come over. Then underneath we've got a piece of tube that goes all the way across to connect the both of them together. That is fish mouthed on these sides so that it fits nicely together. I'll show you that when it comes out again. And then I made these, so I just cut the hole in a square piece of tube, or a piece of square tube, or box section, whatever we call it, and then cut it in half, so I've got two mounts either side for the anti-roll bar mount, and then I nicked this bit off the old engine mount, so I cut them off here. Excuse the mess. So I knew these fitted correctly anyway. They need some tidying up, and it all needs welding up properly, and I've got a pretty big gap there that I need to close up. But as you can see, the anti-roll bar fits perfectly. It's even got a bend in it for me. It's almost like Ford knew I wanted to fit this engine to this car. Fits perfectly around the sump. And next, what I'm going to do is look at the engine mount roughly about there. And I'm going to make a brace or a mount off this 90-degree onto this, so I can mount the engine permanently again. And then what we're going to do, as I've mentioned previously, is my hole there, my new 16mm hole in the chassis rail is going to become a new mount for the front half of this thing. So we're going to make the engine mount here, and then I'm going to come off wherever it is here, behind here, up 90 into the chassis mount that I've got. That should then finish the subframe. I'll weld it all up and I'll take it away for powder coating, and then we can put this car back on its wheels. I'm on the other side now. I've cut out a circular piece of 6mm mild steel, I think it is. I've tidied up the engine mounts a little bit. I put some spacers on. They're only nuts because the bolts are longer than the 8mm, 10mm plate I've got up there. Basically, I need to space the bolts out because I haven't got any metric fine thread stuff here. But either way, that's the engine mounts tidied up. They can go for powder coating when I take this stuff. And then we've got this additional 6mm steel piece here, bolted in, so the rubber mount is bolted in between it. Now we just need to make some triangular things maybe to feed off this brace that I've welded in. It's all a little bit tight, as you can see. This anti-roll bar is close here, but I can still get my finger through. and it needs to move up and down with the wheel when it goes over bumps and stuff. But I can still get at everything on here, which is good. So now, yeah, just with the engine mount, need to make some brackets here to fix this to the car, and then the engine is mounted again. We are laughing. Once that engine mount is done, I'll do the same on the other side. Take the subframe off, weld it all back, weld it all up, and I think then I've got one more 90 degree that I'm going to go from either here up to the chassis rail, or from here up to the chassis rail, just to give it that extra support, because there's a lot of overhang from this this mount over here to the engine being mounted. And you know, the center of gravity for the engine, I suppose, or the center of gravity for the engine mount is here, which is a full, well, must be about 30 centimeters further forward. So we need to, I think I'm going to brace it, which is, the brace is right about here. So it just brings it a bit more in line. Right, that's the subframe pretty much done, I think. It's stinking. So, modifications to this subframe are the additional support for the steering rack. I haven't got the steering rack in here at the moment, but it does just about slide up into here and fit into this gap. I did purchase, oh, I say purchase, I managed to get hold of a electric power steering rack, which is for the 3 Series, I think it is. I've got a 1 Series BMW rack on here at the moment. It's hydraulic. The 3 Series has electric, and it's got a big old motor bolted onto it. I was hoping it would fit onto here, but this bar that I put in between wouldn't fit. So we're going to stick with hydraulic power steering for now. The reason I wanted to go electric was because the hydraulic pump on the 1UZ is notorious for leaking and just being generally a little bit rubbish. So it's probably the least reliable part of that engine. So yeah, that was the idea with electric power steering, but that's probably not going to happen. So we're going to stick with hydraulic. We might have an electric pump at some point in the future, but I'm not going to worry about that in a minute. Bottom line is we're sticking with that steering rack, which is hydraulic. So yeah, that fits up into here and goes to our steering column. and bolts into here. And now I'm, like I said previously, I'm clamping it in there instead of bolting it through and putting a nut on top, which I wasn't 100% happy with. And it was really awkward to get the nuts on top anyway when the engine was in. Next, what else we've done is we've put these, like I said, put this bar in, so it takes off the uprights on the subframe, comes across here and goes across both sides. And then we've got some additional uprights to those bits that I put inside the chassis rails before it went for paint. So they were already in the chassis rails. I think it's M16 bolts, and I've got bolts going up into the chassis rails like they do standard on the Focus. And the reason I've done that is because on this cross piece as well are where the engine now mounts. So here's my engine mounts. The rubbers go on top, both sides, and then the engine sits and cradles in here nicely. So now I've saved myself all the mess that was coming up here and getting in the way of future developments. Either way, now I've got a lot more room down here because I've just got these holding the bottom up. I've had the engine in, it doesn't sag, it doesn't drop. Subframe is strong enough to hold it. It's all good. And then finally, we've got the anti-roll bar fitted to the front. The other reason why I didn't like my big sort of engine cradle, I used to call it, which had bolted into the side of the car here, was I had those big teeth sticking out of the bottom of them for the anti-roll bar mounts. So these bottom bits were like sticking out way down here, and even when I took the car up and down the lane, it was catching on all sorts of stuff on the floor anyway. So I needed to do something about that. And now with this bar across here, I was able to bring the whole thing up and have it not be the lowest point of the car. One thing I had to do was notch the tube across here, so we've got a nice flat spot here for it to move around in, and it just happens the sump of the engine comes into this little gap here, so it worked perfectly. It's almost as if this engine was built to be sat in this car. Anyway, I think that's it for the subframe. I'm going to strip it all down now, or just take the anti-roll bar off it, and the steering arms, bottom arms even, and take it to get powder coated. That is the only reason this car isn't on 4 wheels yet, is this flipping subframe. But I think it's done now. Just a couple more tweaks left to do. Take it for powder coating, and then when it comes back, I can put it in for the final time and drop the engine in, because the engine's ready to go in, and the rear axle's ready to go in. So then it's ready to be dropped back onto the 4 wheels. Anyway, I'm probably going to call it here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Nearly at 2,000 subs now, so well, actually by the time this video goes out, we might be over it. Who knows? But thank you everybody that has subbed. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, give this video a like. I don't think the dislike button works anymore. Well, it works. If you dislike this video, you can press the dislike button, but none of you get to see who disliked it or how many of you did. But yeah, give this video a like and share it with your friends if you enjoyed it. If you want to support the channel a little bit more than just a sub, you can join it and become a channel member. There's a link in the description below, and there's also a link to the Patreon page as well for the channel, so you can join those as well if you like. You get lots of perks, you get videos early, you get a look behind the scenes. Yeah, you get plenty of perks, and hopefully find it's worth it. I think the bottom tier is something like £1 or 99 pence or whatever the equivalent is in whatever country you're in. So it isn't massive, but it does make a difference. Helps me buy stuff like batteries for cameras and stuff like that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll hopefully see you next time. And next time, I don't actually know what we're doing. It might actually be the rebuild. So yeah, don't miss that. Until then, ciao.